Take it from the top.
Yeah, okay, great. Hi, welcome to the Final Bros podcast. My name is Doll Thighs.
And I'm Dorcas Horror. And we're two friends that love to watch trashy TV and movies together.
And today we're talking about the film Tarot.
It's
2024?
I
What year is it?
think so. I mean,
Let me
it's listed as a horror comedy. I didn't realize that they considered themselves a comedy.
2024, yeah. So this film did come out this year. I've got a lot to say.
Yeah, it is painfully PG-13. When we were watching it, you can tell.
Yeah, it definitely. There was a severe lack of gore, cursing,
All the good
interesting
stuff.
plot points. But we watched this film, so you don't have to watch it. And
you really don't have to watch it.
we're gonna talk about it. We're talking about the film, some theme, perhaps.
Contradicting themes and messages.
Yeah, I have a theory. I have a theory about this film. We'll get to. I think we should probably start with just talking about like the plot of the film. Like, what is this movie about?
It's
And
not about much.
No.
We were searching very hard for a plot. It starts to peek out every now and then. But it's mostly just about things happening to people in different places. There's not really much else.
I want to preface this by saying both of us know a decent amount about tarot. I used to read tarot a lot. I've taken tarot classes. You read tarot. So
you would think a movie called Tarot, you're like, oh, if you have an interest in tarot, you'll want to watch this movie. No, if you like tarot, you shouldn't watch this movie because
I think that the creators of this film have a extremely limited understanding of tarot, if any at all. It's like literally
they might have Googled some of the cards on their phone while they were writing the script, and they were like, death card, that's death.
That's a scary one.
Death.
Death.
Devil.
There's gonna be death happening. Yeah, the devil. Yeah, we'll get into that.
We'll get into it, but the readings are extremely surface level and extremely literal.
Yeah, the most more literal than I've ever seen any tarot reading in my life. And I've seen many different people read tarot in many different ways. I want to start by reading to you this is just a write-up on the beginning of the plot of the film. Fantastic. And I need to read this to you because just in reading this, I learned things about the film that I watched that I probably should have known.
Well, the film doesn't tell you anything.
Apparently, a group of college friends, with all their names, whatever, their 8 names.
It took us a long time to figure out who was who.
It took us so long to figure out who was who. But they rent a mansion in the Catskills.
Oh.
Which I didn't even realize this is in New York, apparently. With tension in the group following Haley and Grant's recent breakup. So the two main characters are actually a previous couple that broke up before the film started. Did you realize that?
I didn't realize that they had broken up. I thought they were just in a shitty relationship.
Yeah, because she even very early on, she says, like, if you don't do something, you're going to lose someone you love. And I was like you? Like, because you're his girlfriend?
Yeah, I assumed they were still in a relationship. They were just, like, fighting with each other or something.
Yeah. No, apparently they broke up, and then that's why they went there for the birthday. But,
right, the birthday girl. What's her? I have to
say, like, with this, this is something that is not expressed in the film at all.
Please.
But it is crazy. The idea, like, imagine you have a group of friends and 2 of your close friends just broke up, and you're like, it's my birthday. You're both still coming.
You both need to come to my birthday party to the random mansion in the Catskills. I thought the mansion was going to be important.
Crazy.
The mansion was not important. Like, I thought it was going to be like, oh, we're going to reveal that, like, oh, the owners of this mansion, they did this as like it's a trick. That's a reason why the mansion was so affordable as an Airbnb. No, it's just there.
Yeah, no, it literally felt like the beginning of Cabin in the Woods, but like with none of the irony, none of the self-awareness. It's just people go to a creepy mansion in the woods. They touch some creepy things in a basement, and then they give tarot readings, and then
they unleash an evil that they
don't know. It's the plot of Cabin in the Woods, but like,
the problem is they think that they're self-aware. They're trying to be self-aware so bad. That's why it's a comedy, as they claim.
Was it funny? Did you laugh?
I mean, we laughed at not the jokes, but we laughed at some of the acting.
Yeah, I will say on the acting, I mean, it wasn't great, but I did have some actors that I actually really like the one who played Karen in Mean Girls. What was her name?
The character's name was Elise. No. Karen girl. Elise. Yeah, Paige.
Paige, yeah.
I have notes.
Paige.
It's Paige.
I thought she kind of actually served, but she barely had any.
She was a nothing character, though.
Literally, she just cried most of the time.
Yeah. Like, okay, let's just start at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
So
let's start from the top.
They're all around a fire pit, and they're not establishing who they are or their personalities or really anything.
They establish lesbians.
They do establish that two of them are in a relationship, and that is Elise and Paige.
Yes. And I literally, the first note I wrote was lesbians, how soon will they die?
Yeah.
And
well,
pretty soon.
Pretty soon.
Pretty soon.
So they reveal that they're staying in a sort of Airbnb situation in this giant mansion in the woods of the Catskills, apparently. Apparently. And so they go into the house and they're like bored. And because
they ran out of alcohol.
They ran out of beer. And they have
nobody's drunk.
Nobody's drunk. They're all the trash can is overflowing with empty alcohol bottles.
Sober.
And they're like, oh, we should just go drive to get some more. And they're like, no, that's stupid. Let's go raid this mansion's. They just assume there's a wine cellar.
Right.
And they go to the basement, and instead it's the Cabin in the Woods basement.
By the way, the basement did have a sign that said keep out.
It was locked, and it said keep out. But the white guy named Lucas, once again, they're not using each other's names. They're just like, you.
No. It took so long for us to figure out what everybody's name was.
I was tracking it. It took 3/4 of the movie for me to finally finish my.
At one point, I wrote in a quote that you said, which was, "Is she gonna die before I figure out her name?"
And she did. She did.
Really, that's how this entire film felt.
Yeah.
Really.
And so, once again, we don't know where we are. We don't know why we are. We don't know who we are. But Lucas just sort of grabs the padlock that's locking the door shut and just yanks it. It opens.
Their hands rips a padlock open. Not even off the door. Like he ripped it open.
It ripped it open. Which is why I was thinking this is a trap. Like the people who own this mansion are doing this as it's a plot for some reason involving. No. Anyways, they go down into the basement. Nobody seems to live at this mansion, but they keep all these expensive antique horror curios.
Yeah, it's just like an Airbnb property. It's like a museum. I don't think the owners ever come here.
But it's why would you keep all that really valuable stuff that you've collected down there? Doesn't make any sense.
They had 85 globes, and I remember at one point somebody said, "Why do they have all this creepy stuff?" When it was just a basement full of globes.
But anyways, oh yeah, I also wrote down that it was weird that the lesbians were drinking Samuel Adams specifically, not EPR or something.
Also, how old are they? Are they college?
They're college. They don't really discuss the college aspect, but they
the one girl lives in a sorority house.
Yeah, she's in a sorority house type of situation.
Weirdest sorority house I've ever seen.
But they find the tarot deck. It's in a wooden box with the wheel of the zodiac symbols on it. And they comment on it that's weird.
But that's really strange. You can't buy one of those in any store that sells tarot decks.
But we did agree when we saw the cards, they were actually like they were cool. The cards slapped.
Yeah, the
like, the
cards.
art on
I would
them.
say the art direction of the film in general was not at all the problem. The
No, no,
cards
no,
were
no, no.
cool. The monster design was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was more so just the overall writing and direction
Or lack
was
of direction,
confusing.
I think is the problem.
Yeah. So, um, what's her name? The main girl,
Haley.
Haley. Yeah. So Haley gives them all tarot readings,
Haley just
rapid
happens
fire.
to be a tarot expert.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
She's supposed to
Yeah.
be the tarot expert. She's not actually good
She,
at it.
okay, so I knew somebody. So tarot reads. She reads in a way that I knew this lady who used to read like this, where basically she spreads out a ton of cards. Like it was like she did like a wheel of the year, but like with zodiac signs. And then she's just like, "You're going to get a new job," and she just kind of says like crazy things that are kind of very specific.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I used to work with this lady at a restaurant once. She would do that. She would snort a bunch of cocaine, and then she would do a bunch of tarot readings like that. And she was really accurate. So maybe there is something to the way that Haley reads. I've never done a reading like that though. I usually do like a more in-depth thing.
Well, the thing is, this movie is all about tarot, and you would think they
Yeah.
would spend more time on this part, but like when they're doing the tarot readings, like for the group, they are rapid firing going through them. They're like, "You're a
Mhm.
Pisces. Here's your card. Here's something it's very generic and very like really on the nose." And
Yeah. And also tons of astrology mixed in as well, which was
mhm.
I mean, that is a way to read tarot. It's just usually like kind of a separate thing. Although they do later state that the combination of tarot and astrology is the strongest form of divination. I
They also said it was like an extremely
sure.
old for like one of the oldest
Yeah,
too, and it's
which
like
it's
that's
not.
not true.
I think tarot dates back
Um,
to the 1600s originally when it was a card game, right?
but like the rest of the movie is based off of these card readings, these tarot readings for the characters. So you think that we'd spend some invested time on being like, this is your personalized reading, and this is going to tell me a lot about your character, and also like what your character's like problems are and like who they are as a character. No, we blow through them super fast, and we still
Yeah.
barely know anything about anyone's like personality other than like bad boyfriend, lesbians,
Yeah. And there's
obnoxious guy in sweater.
literally no depth to it
No,
whatsoever. It's just you're an archetype of a person, much like the zodiac or the tarot, and that's it.
that's
That's like
it.
all you get.
Moving on to the
That's
next
the whole
one.
thing. Yeah. So, and then they run the title card, and that's kind of the end of the mansion for most of the movie. They literally leave the mansion and go about their
Yeah.
lives.
Well, she
Sort
even
of.
acknowledges right at the beginning. She says, "There's an unspoken rule that you're not supposed to do readings with someone else's tarot deck." But she doesn't even have to be pressured into doing it. She just does it.
Yeah. Well, the one girl goes, but it's my
It's my
birthday.
birthday.
Yeah, Elise, the
It's
one of the two
really her
lesbians.
fault.
Well, and she's the first to go.
I also just need to stress that none of these characters feel like friends. Like they have
No, it
zero
feels like these people
chemistry.
met today on set for the first time. They've never met each other. The actors are portraying that through their performance.
There's so much dead air when they're talking together as a group where it's just like
Yeah,
one
it's
person says something,
uncomfortable.
there's no music, there's no sound effects, and it's just dead air before someone else responds with like a "oh you." It's uncomfortable.
There's also one girl that they barely show in this entire sequence who,
We thought she appeared out of nowhere.
what's her name?
Her name is Madeline.
Madeline. Yeah, they barely show her throughout this entire sequence. They cut to her occasionally, but even when they zoom out to the wide shots of the entire group, they cut her out of it for some reason.
Yeah, she
She's like
constantly
not
gets
even in the
cut
wide
out.
shots.
She doesn't
So
seem
whenever
to,
they show her, it's like a jump scare. It's so jarring.
she doesn't
Like,
even
who is
seem to
this
have
random
any sort of
woman?
real personal relationship with any of the other characters. Like the rest of them are
She's
mostly like related by like these two people are dating, these two people
I
are
think she
dating.
is dating him, the white guy, right?
Is she? I don't
She
know.
didn't really care when he died.
No, nobody really cared when somebody died that much.
No, that's true. And they die fast. So let's get into the deaths.
Oh yeah. Well,
so
the directors said they really take their time with suspense. They don't want to just
yeah,
give
no,
up scares.
There was a quote. There was a quote I found from one of the directors, writers/directors. I don't remember his full name.
Spencer Cohen.
Spencer Cohen. He said, "I think a lot of horror today feels rushed. People try to get to the scare. Please, sorry, my back hurts." Anyway, I think a lot of horror today feels rushed. People try to get to the scare. It's all about the build up for us.
What build up?
Great. Yeah, what build up? There's literally none at all.
Like,
at all.
They literally just move from that scene at the mansion. They're like, well, let's go back to the university or whatever. They don't really tell us where they're going. We don't know what city they're in. No. We don't know what university they go to. But we had to.
Do they go to the same university?
I think so. I think that's why they're all friends.
Oh. But I guess we never get any clarification on that.
Not really, because they all go back and they drop off Elise at her dorm sorority house. I think it's a sorority house.
Yeah, it seems to be like a sorority house or some sort of apartment with a bunch of students in it, maybe. But she's the only one we ever see that lives there.
Yeah, no, because all the other girls are out for some reason.
Or something. Yeah.
And so she's there and she's alone. And I want to run through all the main tarot that all the characters were like assigned.
Yeah, why don't we do it like death by death? We can start with Elise and like go one by one.
Sure. So Elise, who was the girlfriend of Paige, she was assigned the High Priestess.
Yes.
And the movie also makes the mistake of just assuming that every reversed card is evil, like bad.
Yeah.
Because every single card was like, it's reversed and it means this. And so she's alone in her dorm and she's talking to her girlfriend on the phone and she's scared. And then something thumps on her door really loud. And it sounds like there's somebody out there. And she just goes, "Oh, I think the girls came back." And gets off the phone with her girlfriend and then goes and investigates. And that's when she discovers that the ladder to the attic is down, right?
Yeah, I will say the imagery of like opening your door to a like dark empty house and the ladder to the attic is just down it's very unsettling. Like some of these sequences I felt like had good ideas in them.
Yeah. They're very like expected. Like Blumhouse horror, but
very cliche as well.
It's very cliche.
That is a big the scary attic. A classic horror trope.
Yeah, so she goes and investigates, and she's like using her flashlight on her phone to look around the attic, and like there's something scurrying around up there. And then when she came back initially, the ladder was already down. She put it up.
Yeah.
And closed the door, and then she went in her room, and then the thump happens, she comes out, and it's back down again. And so she goes to investigate. And then she just gets jump scared off the ladder by the priestess.
Yeah,
she just sort of goes,
the priestess is in the attic, yeah.
And her design is actually kind of cool, but she does just kind of jump scare her off the ladder.
She falls at most 6 feet.
Like 5 or 6 feet off the ladder. She wasn't even like, all the way in the attic.
Because she's already halfway down the ladder. So maybe 3 to 4 feet actually.
And she's paralyzed. She can barely crawl. And then the high priestess just stabs her in the back with the ladder.
Yeah, crushed by the ladder.
The
thing that she said. And this film also does this really fun thing where, as if it's not literal enough for a character to literally be crushed by a ladder by the high priestess, they also replay the audio of the tarot reading in which Haley says, "You're going to have it's the high priestess. You're going to have a ladder."
Yeah, it's like this like weird ghost echoey voice of Haley just repeating the tarot reading
every time. And it's unclear if this is happening in just for us or if it's happening in the world. Because remember at one point
it's like they don't trust us to remember.
but it like plays on the radio one time or something, and they like acknowledge it. It seems like. So I think the characters are hearing this again. Maybe.
Hard to tell.
Very hard to tell.
And then they just like, one thing they're going to do repeatedly is they really want to get their mileage out of the monster designs. So they repeat the jump scare just for the audience of the high priestess rushing at the camera. And that's it.
So many jump scares in this movie, and I don't think I was startled even slightly at all. Like at a certain point, if there's too many jump scares and there's no suspense, it's not scary. Like you're not gonna jump when there's literally no suspense and somebody just goes like what the fuck.
It's really awful, but like at least she's dead. The first one dead is the
lesbian dies first. We are breaking down boundaries here in tarot, because I've never seen that before.
I did write that this movie is self-aware in all the worst ways.
Yes, I would agree with that. I felt that the film was overall just kind of like a lot of horror cliches. So let's run through the rest of the deaths really quickly, because that's all this is, by the way. This is like, it's a series of deaths, Final Destination style, but without like any of the irony. It's just
without any of like the cleverness of Final
There's
Destination.
Nothing clever about this film. It's the most literal interpretation of a tarot-based horror movie you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
The next one to go is Lucas. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember what his card was. I just think we both assume it was the Hermit.
Yeah.
Do you actually remember that?
Well,
it looked like the Hermit.
Yeah, because he had the lantern.
But we didn't see the card in his death like we did for some of the other ones.
I can't think of any other major arcana that would be that.
Yeah, it was probably the Hermit.
The Hermit.
I just put down Hermit ? So Lucas, he's getting on a train, I think, going down a subway, I guess, somewhere in New York. Like, where are they? I guess New York City.
They don't establish it at all. It's just
it's not established at all. It doesn't look like New York City, but since they were at the Catskills and it seemed like they drove home and there's a subway. Living in New York State, I don't know of many cities other than New York City that have a subway system. But the subway was like dead. Like there's nobody there. So he goes down in this like empty subway. He gets chased by the Hermit. Some of the sequences in his was actually kind of cool, like the lights kind of going out aggressively and like coming towards him was kind of fun. Very
which once again, we don't know where he's going or why.
No,
he's just here at an empty subway station.
I guess he's going home. Maybe. I mean, at this point, I barely knew his name. I think I actually had to. Yeah, I had later. To Google. I had to look up the cast list to figure out who this person was.
We got his name by process of elimination.
Literally. So Lucas is getting chased by the Hermit. At some point, she says something about like the audio plays of him being like, or her being like, you're going to be led down a wrong track. He's literally a train station.
In a train station on train tracks with a bunch of abandoned train cars. And then the thing is, he doesn't even get led down the wrong, like you would think he'd be tempted or something to go down this, like go down this track, thinking it's like the way to escape or whatever when it's wrong. He literally gets pushed by the Hermit monster onto the train track.
Literally, there's no nuance to this whatsoever.
He literally just gets pushed.
Yeah, he dies. At this point, the group is aware that their friends are dying, but nobody seems to care that much.
Someone literally says, "This is making no sense." I quoted that.
Yeah,
because
the one guy who's obsessed with true crime podcasts seems to think there is a serial killing happening. Which is, I guess, kind of what's going on, sort of. But they've yet to think that it's magic.
Yeah, Haley did say, and I quoted again, "I said something about a ladder."
Right.
Involving Elise's death.
Yeah.
Is this where they were brought before the Deans? That weird scene with the Deans. I don't remember that
at all. I don't remember anything about that.
It was like the Deans were talking about, I forgot what they were discussing, honestly, but it was just like they were in like an office and the Dean was speaking to them.
I believe you. I don't remember that. I can't even imagine how that would have been relevant or
do you
impacted the plot
remember
at
they
all.
immediately just searched, like, they literally went onto her little MacBook and just Googled, like, tarot horoscope and immediately got the crazy old tarot lady's name and address.
Did that happen? I thought Madeline died first before they did that.
No, Madeline doesn't die until they go to the bridge in the car.
I thought that was before, because I thought they weren't like. Oh, okay. So they go to confirm that this is a curse. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
that happens first. Okay,
I think that happens on maybe the way back from her.
Maybe. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't write much about that down because it didn't seem important.
No,
at this point in the film, I was starting to just discount everything that was happening. I was like, that's probably not gonna matter later. These plot points are probably
but
never
like they do the
together.
quickest research segment where they just Google very generic terms, find this specific lady that knows about this tarot deck,
right?
Because it's been linked to other tarot deaths, and they just go there.
So so they go to see this old woman, who is like tarot woman, and she lets them into her house. She seems insane. Newspapers all over the place, like hoarders level person, and they, she tells them the story of this tarot deck. Now, I looked up. Do you remember the story of the tarot deck?
It's about the lady that used to do tarot readings for people, and then she got scorned, and she put a curse on the tarot deck. And offed herself to seal the curse in her soul into the tarot deck.
It's a little bit more nuanced than that, but you wouldn't know that from watching the film. But essentially, the backstory officially is that the tarot cards belong to an astrologer who did a reading for an 18th century Hungarian count. After the reading came true. The reading said his pregnant wife and child would die at childbirth, and it came true. So when the count was grief-stricken, he sent men to the astrologer's house to kill her daughter. So her daughter gets killed. Yeah, so that's sort of the backstory. And then in her grief, she places a curse on herself and the tarot deck, and she I don't know what we can say on the formats we're releasing this. So she unalives herself and attaches her like cursed soul to the tarot deck. So that's why the tarot deck is so evil.
Which we got more, we got way more backstory and exposition about this tarot deck in this one segment than anything else in the entire film.
Literally, yeah. It's like a lore dump from this old woman who just happens to know everything about this specific tarot deck. And the only reason she knows is because it was a weird tarot deck in a wooden box with the zodiac signs on them.
Yeah, that
which, by the way, as we mentioned earlier, you could buy a wooden box with the zodiac signs on them for tarot decks at literally any store that sells tarot decks.
You can go on Amazon right now and find them.
So many wooden boxes like that, but whatever. So then we like half of the group doesn't really seem to believe this old woman. So they just kind of like move on.
Oh yeah, okay. I do have this plot point where they're returning from the tarot lady, and that's when Madeline gets attacked by the hanged man. So once again, isn't like it's not like a ghostly type of thing. These are literal physical monsters that can physically touch you and things in the world. So the hanged man is like jumping on the car. They're seeing the proximity sensors go off about where it is, which means it doesn't really mean anything. And instead, like I wrote down that this is where like I realized that the characters were just sort of stating things out loud that we can infer by watching it. Like Madeline just says, "I'm just so scared right now. The car stopped." Because the car stopped, but she had to tell us that the car stopped and that she's scared. We would never be able to tell. And so like she just starts Running? She just gets out of the car and starts running across the bridge alone.
Yeah, because she's a Pisces or something, and Pisces is just
she wasn't away. The Pisces. The Pisces was the beanie guy.
Wait, what was she?
I don't remember her horoscope.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
The horoscope interpretations are so. It's literally like if you just read like a horoscope, like a newspaper horoscope interpretation, and you just took like one line from it. Like that's every single interpretation in this film.
And so
it's so literal.
She's just running down the bridge away from her friends, and then the hanged man monster just uses a prehensile rope to snatch her, and now she's also dead.
Yes, yeah, and they watch this happen. The most significant part of this death is not actually the character who dies. We barely even spoke to her or looked at her throughout the whole film. It's more so the importance that now everybody has watched it happen in front of their eyes, so they know it's real.
Yeah.
They know that it's actually a problem. But even so, when they get off the bridge, Haley, who did the readings, like this is probably a good 5 to 10 minutes after this entire sequence takes place. She goes, "Oh my god, it's just like the tarot reading."
Yeah, she literally goes like, "Oh my god, it's just like the horoscope. It came true."
Like literally, like the second you see a hanged man character trying to hang, don't you think she would have figured that out like earlier?
It took her a while. Miss Haley is not.
Anyway, so despite all of that, despite the fact that they just literally saw a magical monster creature hang her, and it sort of confirmed a theory they already had, Paxton, the comedy relief type character, although
he provides neither comedy nor relief.
I don't think I laughed at a single I felt miserable. Him trying so hard to tell jokes, and it was like
the actor was trying, but
I really, at a certain point, like maybe just like do some improv or something, like just tell a joke. Like, why was he so unfunny for the comedy relief character?
It was awful. All of his lines were terrible.
Yeah,
but he runs off on his own. He abandons his friend just like the reading said he would, because he's a Pisces or whatever. And so he's trying to go back to his dorm apartment something.
How do you feel about Pisces?
I don't know. I don't really know anything about them. Listen, I don't know a lot about horoscopes in general.
I've only ever known one Pisces, and she used to cry all the time.
Yeah.
So I just assume that's how most Pisces are. Do you believe in astrology?
I don't know. I mean, I say like horoscope stuff like doesn't really make any sense, because like why would what month you're born in really determine your personality? But I can't think of another sign that I would associate myself with other than Scorpio. So
honestly, same, yeah.
Maybe there's something to it. I don't know.
Maybe. We're both Scorpios for anyone who cares. I don't know if anyone cares, but I don't know. Maybe this is a Scorpio thing to pretend astrology doesn't exist. I'm not sure. I think astrology is fun.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like it's more of like a self-fulfilling prophecy thing. Like if you're a child and somebody keeps telling you like this is how you should act because of astrology, then like that's how you're gonna act. I do kind of believe that a little bit more than like it actually being real.
I agree.
But I also don't really believe in tarot that much. Even though I do tarot and I have done tarot for a long time, I don't believe it's like magic or it's gonna like tell me the future, personally.
I think I like to view it as like it's a possibility. This could happen if you can.
Well, anything could happen.
Anything could happen.
Okay, anyway, so Paxton runs off to maybe his house.
He is trying to go to his house. He is
really hard to tell where anyone's going.
Because he has a
Where
roommate.
Is anyone going?
Remember, he has a roommate. Yeah. That becomes important, I guess.
That's crucial later on.
So crucial. Sort of. Paxton and his roommate.
So
he gets in the elevator and he wants to go to the 4th floor, because it's an apartment building that seems to be in like the city, and it looks a lot taller, but there are only 4 floors.
It seems like they're in the city, but there's no people ever around.
No, there's never people. They couldn't
There's
afford
no
more
extras.
actors. They couldn't afford
some
them.
extras.
Their budget went into monster design and hand painting tarot cards.
Yeah, they live in some ghost town version of New York City, I guess.
So he gets in the elevator and then he starts remembering his reading, which was that he's going to get boxed in. And he also got dealt the fool because he's the jokester. So what could that tarot reading possibly mean? It means he's in an elevator and there's a clown trying to kill him. That's what the reading means. I feel like the further and further we get into the movie, the readings just get more and more lazy in their interpretation because he's literally in a box with a clown trying to kill him.
Yeah. And there's this weird sequence with the clown in the elevator. It goes on for way too long. I think it's supposed to be funny, but it's not.
He's like going through the different floors and the doors are opening and then like the fool is doing something and then the doors shut.
Yeah, like walking on the ceiling and stuff. And it's the clown design is kind of creepy, but it's not anywhere near the level of like other like iconic scary clowns like Pennywise.
I barely remember what it looks like.
It's wearing like a jester mask. Yeah. It's very like Venetian.
But we get all this like we get this entire sequence and it culminates in literally the fool bursting through the ceiling of the elevator and seemingly just attacking him.
Yeah, and then we cut to the next character.
And then it just hard cuts. Yeah, we don't see anything actually happen.
And then this is the point where they go back to the mansion, right?
I think they're preparing to, because I remember them Googling on their phone how to break an ancient curse.
Right.
And immediately getting results for that as well. But yeah, they're going back to the mansion. And that's when we discovered nobody lives at the mansion because they just show up again and they just go inside.
Nobody cares. Yeah.
Nobody cares.
It seems to be vacant.
And they also
honestly,
sorry.
This could have been a really fun opportunity for like some more tenants to be there or something like the next
there's other people renting the property
goers. Yeah,
and they're like, you gotta get out of here, the tarot's gonna kill us all, you know.
Right, we could have gotten some more fun deaths or some sort of interest, but it's just an empty building and they go back to it. It's just it's a set basically.
It's just nothing else going on. It's like 2 rooms. But they return and they also called the tarot lady, but like I didn't realize they had her number. But
right, they called her on the phone, I guess.
And she came to the mansion.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they try to burn the tarot cards and they don't burn.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And then also the evil tarot ghost curse lady does a forced reading for tarot the
Alma, the tarot witch lady.
Yeah. She does a reading for the tarot lady that's like an expert on this deck. And it gives her the 6 of Swords.
Right.
Which she gets killed by 6 swords, which is not even the card.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with the tarot, there is the 10 of Swords, which is a photo. It's like an image of a person laying face down on the ground, stabbed by 10 swords.
Yeah,
it's the culmination of like the sword storyline of the tarot, where in the end you're just basically
it's like if you want a tarot card that's about someone getting stabbed by swords, there is the 10 of Swords and there is the 3 of Swords. The 3 of Swords is interpreted differently depending on the artist. But it is typically like either a person or a heart being stabbed by swords.
Right.
There's 2 different tarot cards that deal with stabbing people with swords, and they chose one that doesn't have anything to do with that.
The 6 of Swords, which is typically just a group of people in a boat, like sailing across a body of water with some swords. It's usually more of like a traveling card. And I have a theory that they didn't have 10 swords.
It's just confusing as to why they didn't just go with the 3 of Swords. Maybe they thought 3 swords just wasn't enough.
I think they literally had 6 swords. Like the props department had 6 swords, and they couldn't
Mm.
get 4 more swords either because of logistics or just budget. So they were like, "Fuck it, we'll just make it the 6
But she
swords, but we'll
literally
just
just
use the
gets
image."
stabbed. Like there's no other meaning to it. She just gets stabbed by 6 swords.
Yeah, and
And that's
also
the end
on
of
top
her.
of that, she's the only person who gets a tarot reading that isn't a major arcana. Like
Yeah,
literally
she just
every
gets a
card they
random
pull is a major arcana except that one.
she gets just a random minor arcana card that does not have to do with her or anything. It
Yeah.
just it was
So
really dumb.
I guess like if just for anyone who's not familiar with like the tarot, it's separated into like 3 major categories. There's the minor arcana, which are just numbers. So there's like the 1 of swords, the 2 of wands, whatever, like a deck of cards. There's the court cards, which are never mentioned in this movie at all, nope. Which are like the king and the queen and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's the major arcana, which are the pretty much the only cards they talk about. Clearly, they just wanted to design monsters of the major arcana characters, which traditionally traditionally represent like a archetype, like the emperor, the high priestess, the hierophant. Like
yeah,
they represent like a archetypal concept in society, like the fool, and that's pretty much the like most basic understanding of tarot is like you know those cards exist, and that's the understanding that the creators of this film had.
I do need to touch back on something that the movie did try to tell us plot wise that we skipped over,
yes.
because it was very brief, but it's the closest thing we get to a plot and character development in this movie, which is way earlier in the film. Right after Elise dies, the very first lesbian dies. The main character Haley kind of goes on like a weird anti-medicine rant.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Where she talks about her mother dying of illness. She doesn't really specify, I don't think. But
I think she says cancer.
Does she say cancer? I just remember her kind of criticizing her mother for trying a bunch of different treatments, even though they didn't seem to work. And so her opinion was you should just give up because it's fate.
Yeah.
So she's like, she believes that if you have cancer, you should just give up.
Yeah, she has a very aggressive like stance that it's like everything that could possibly happen is going to happen. So there's no point even trying because you're just gonna do the things you're gonna do. Like the everything is fixed. You have no free will, essentially, is like her argument. And there's no real reason for trying to do anything.
Yeah,
which is a weird position to give a protagonist who has to drive the plot.
It's also a very weird stance for somebody who's supposedly really into tarot to have about fate.
That's also true.
Because I've never seen a tarot reader that lays out some cards and goes, this is exactly what's going to happen. There's no way to change it. And you shouldn't even try.
Literally not at all. That's
I just wanted to go back and cover that because it's a very brief flashback that just sort of happens.
Yeah. Okay, so Alma dies, stabbed to death by
6 swords.
And then we move on to
what's her name? Paige. Paige gets separated from the group. And her card was the Magician. So if you could only guess how they could interpret a card called the Magician.
Is it really nuanced and intelligent and clever?
It would be nice if it was any of those things. It's the interpretation is she's going to get killed by a stage magician.
Yeah.
So it took way too long for
what it was.
She gets trapped in a box and essentially she just gets sawed in half.
It's also worth mentioning, I don't know if we really brought this up. We did mention this film it feels very PG. You don't see anyone die. This isn't like Saw, where we're like watching her get cut in half and she's like screaming and it's violent.
The most explicit deaths we get are the High Priestess ladder thing.
Yeah, which there's no gore or blood or anything.
It's not just really gory. And the hanged man. We see her get yanked up and like
yanked into
she
the
has
darkness.
To be like, But yeah, nothing really explicit happens.
No, not at all. It's very much like deaths are happening off screen, left and right. It's not really even that exciting when they die.
No, you're just kind of waiting for it to be done.
Yeah,
because you drag it out.
There's literally no point where you think, oh my god, she could live if they do this or that or whatever. It's like it's just like it's very like, because even in Final Destination, part of the fun of Final Destination is that they set up so many ways the characters could die, and you don't actually know what's going to happen. You're just like, you have that anxiety of like, oh no, she's getting in a tanning bed, but like you don't know what's going to happen. In this, it's like, no, you literally.
In this
know.
one, it's literally like, the first most obvious thing does happen, and they just die.
Literally. So moving on. By the way, they do listen to her scream as she dies through the vents.
Through the vents, never try to do they never find her. They never see her.
No,
they just don't hear her, to help. And they're just like, "Oh, I guess Paige is gone now."
Yeah.
Once again, they're really good friends. They're all really good, close.
The best of friends. Yeah.
But this is where we get probably the best line delivery of the entire movie. Is when the broken up couple, Haley and Grant, are sitting under a window in a hallway, and they're talking about how she's going on again about how you can't defy fate. And he even says like, oh yeah, you can't change your fate. And then she just says, what if we could? What if we could?
Okay, that was actually almost exactly.
It's supposed to be a realization that she has. She's supposed to be going, what if we could? What if we could? But no, literally, she just...
any change in inflection would have made that a better line delivery.
She repeats the line the exact same way that she did the first time.
It literally feels like an editing error when you watch it.
When my first thought was they just like left in like two, like they just left both lines in by accident.
Yeah, like 2 takes by accident.
But it was intentional. It was supposed to be that way.
I'm assuming. I mean, we can only the director knows, I guess, at the end of the day. Yeah, so then the next one is going to be Grant.
Well, Grant just gets yanked out a window by the devil.
By the devil, yes. Grant got the devil. So Grant gets yanked out of the window by the devil, and then Haley gets chased by death.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she
got death. And so, of course, the literal, just like the Grim Reaper is going to chase her around.
Yes. And
he's just a monster.
Once again, no nuance here. There isn't even like, because like if I'm on the design team here, I'm so sorry. I think Merlin has to scream. Okay, I think he's done. If I'm on the design team here, and you give me the script, and it's like her biggest, most impactful experience with death is her mom dying of cancer in this like horrible medical way. For me, my first impulse for her monster, her death monster, would be a like medical sort of like really like, I don't know, sterile kind of monster creature, either something maybe like a doctor or as some sort of depiction of like a person who is just ravaged by cancer. That can be a little insensitive, so maybe that's why they didn't go in that direction. But like, I think in general, there's so many things that you can do with like that, but we didn't really get any of that. It's just like a shadow man,
skeleton monster.
Yeah, it's just a skeleton shadow man.
I remember she hides in a closet and she spends a long time in that closet. She just like sits in that closet for like quite a while.
It's a while, yeah.
Like the culmination of that whole idea of a scene is that he just appears behind her and she runs out of the closet.
Yeah, same. Honestly, same. So yeah, she gets chased by death and then he's choking her. He's like choking her out.
Yeah. And then
but then surprise,
Grant's not dead, and
Grant's
just
still alive.
Grant just hits death with like an object. It's like a chair or something. Yeah. He literally just whacks death with an object.
I feel the need to express that Grant got yanked out of a like 2nd or 3rd story mansion building window, and he's totally fine. But when the girl fell off
3
ladder.
feet. can't move.
Plus 3 feet, paralyzed from the waist down. It's just anyway. So Grant's fine, and he hits Death with a chair, and then at this point they've decided. I forgot. They've decided that she's going to give the tarot deck woman, the spirit attached to the tarot deck. She's going to give that woman. Yeah, the corpse lady. The corpse lady?
The curse lady.
Oh, the curse lady. Well, both, I guess.
Yeah.
She's gonna give her
a tarot reading
with her own deck. Yeah.
With her own deck. Yeah.
So she runs to do that. Meanwhile, Grant is being dragged literally to hell by a literal devil monster. And
yeah.
I just feel like we need to pause here for a second to talk about what the devil card at the tarot means, because I feel like this is a massive misconception about the devil. The devil isn't I mean, in a way, it is based on Christian devil concepts, but it's not like an evil demon that's going to kill you. It's not a demon
card about hell.
No, not
it's
at all.
About like you're trapping yourself in vice and temptation.
Yeah, addiction. Like, it's very famously is depicted by the characters of the Lovers, which that would have been a cool card for them to actually do, which they didn't. But the characters of the Lovers with chains around their necks that are very loose that they could remove at any moment. This imagery, honestly, would have played really well into the story of their relationship if the creators of this film understood the real meaning of the devil card. Because it's really about like being in a situation of your own making that's negative and blaming it on another outside force like the devil. It's not literally about being dragged to hell by a demon.
But the writers of this movie definitely think it does mean just the devil's gonna take you to hell.
Yeah, so he's dragging them to hell by a demon. Great. Moving on, she gives the lady the tarot reading, right?
Yeah, and it creates a giant vortex that just sucks death into it.
Right. And is it over then? What happens after that?
Remember, it's the big vortex scene, and they're holding each other, and death gets sucked into it, and it like makes the root, like the horoscope symbols on the ground glow, and
right. Lots of special effects here.
And then, do you want to do Grant's face? Remember Grant's face that he was doing?
I don't think I can do Grant's face. I think you're gonna have to do it.
And then he like changes his expression again, and then he goes back to it and is like,
I totally forgot. He makes that face throughout almost the entire film, but then in that last scene, it's the only thing he does.
There's no dialogue. He's just making that face.
Line, I think. And when he's not saying his one line, he's just making it really feels like the actor thinks that scene is way shorter than it actually is.
Yeah, it's like they're rolling for like B-roll or something, but like it's just a scene of them holding each other, and he's just making that face.
It goes on for way too long. It's so uncomfortable. I did laugh though. I thought that was the funniest part of the entire movie. Honestly, I totally forgot about that.
And then it's revealed that guess who survived?
Yeah. Paxton.
Everybody's favorite Paxton.
The fool. Now, I think here, if I'm the film creator, I guess I think like, oh, this is the lovable jokester character. Everybody's going to be so happy.
It's the Randy Meeks of Scream is what they think they're creating.
Right. And in actuality, it's like, okay.
It's like, we didn't need him to survive, but they really wanted him to survive.
Yeah.
And then they say, fuck fate.
Well, then they explain how Paxton survived. Now, this is really important.
Well, that was part of the comedy fake out ending. That's after she says like fuck fate. And then they like end the movie, and then they go,
roll credits.
Whoa, never mind. We're not done yet.
Yeah, and then they're like, how did you survive? And then he explains. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Merlin.
Anyway. Oh my god, Merlin. This is a professional recording studio. Get it together.
It's your producer.
Merlin's the producer of the podcast.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they ask Paxton how he survived, and he explains that his roommate found him in the elevator.
His roommate just opened the elevator doors, and somehow that dissipated the fool. And he survived.
And that's it. And that's literally it.
We don't know.
So all they had to do was have a person who wasn't cursed be with them at all times, and the monsters just couldn't attack them.
Apparently.
That's what we learned from Paxton's story.
Apparently.
So all of those times they just let their friends die, they could have 100% avoided it. And even if Paxton had just called them and let them know, like, hey, I figured out how to defeat the curse, he could have actually saved the life of the other lesbian. So
nobody cared about. They never addressed her again. They didn't find her body. They didn't stumble across and be like, oh no, not Paige.
No, they didn't even check to see if she was actually dead. They just assumed she was dead and left her there. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. So...
And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's the film. Now, I think I think I have an idea about why this film was made. I think I see what's going on here. In the past, like, couple years, like the past 2 years or so, we've had a real like renaissance of like Christian like horror. There's been a bunch of new Exorcist films, a bunch of films about like nuns. What was that one that just came out? I can't remember what it's called. I didn't watch it. The Nun, yeah. But no, there was another one with a nun.
Another nun.
What's it called? Let me look it up.
Another nun. Thank you.
No, not The Nun. What's the other nun movie? Oh God, I'm never gonna know.
I didn't watch it.
There's a bunch of Christian horror films happening. And I think we're seeing...
What is it? I don't remember.
Oh, there was The Pope's Exorcist. Yeah, there was that. But there was another one. There's just been a ton of like Christian Catholic horror films. Yeah, and I feel like we're seeing like
the Satanic Panic.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. We're seeing like a resurgence of the Satanic Panic. It's like a modern day Satanic Panic. And I think that's why this film happened. I think they're capitalizing on this sort of like Christian based fear of like
the crystal mommies on Facebook.
Yeah, I guess like just like to cards, like, but the thing is like it's so easy if people have like an ingrained fear of something based on like their background, like the devil or whatever, because like it was really the devil scene where I was like, yeah, of course we're doing the devil because Christianity, because there's no way we could actually use any of the real like intrinsic meaning of the cards here. We just have to talk about like Satan, like, oh, they touched a tarot deck, they're gonna go to hell. And that's literally the level of nuance that the creators have given the concept of tarot.
Yeah, it's really not a movie for tarot enjoyers.
It's like a movie for like Christians that are afraid of tarot. Like that's literally
it's a movie for teenagers to watch and pretend to be scared of because they can't go to an R-rated movie. True. It's PG-13.
That's also true. It did feel like it was for children. You're not wrong.
I wanted to move on to a segment where I wanted to propose how we could fix this movie and turn it into like an actual movie.
Sure.
Like use the
same. Do we have a name for the segment?
How to fix the movie.
Oh,
that's what I called it. Well, do you have a better one?
What'd you say?
I said, do you have a better one?
No.
Okay, great. So the way I would fix tarot and turn it into a movie I would actually want to watch again, I say there's too many characters. There's too many main characters. You need to pare them down a little bit. And I think the structure of the movie is that the main character, Haley, is struggling with the loss of her mother to cancer. And maybe that's why they're out trying to hang out as friends, because they're trying to cheer her up. And she has an issue with how she feels about fate and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets an elaborate tarot reading from maybe the tarot lady, who's weird, to try to help her deal with her mother's death. Like, she needs to get an elaborate reading that will give her like step-by-step guidance on how to like get past this grief.
Okay.
And then as the movie starts happening, weird stuff starts happening. And then she realizes that her tarot reading is coming true. So she's only on step 1 of like step 12 or whatever, or how many ever steps are. There's like 6 in her reading. And so every card represents a different hurdle she has to personally overcome in her grief, and defeat this tarot monster in order to in order to move on. And so like, each one is like a different monster that's challenging her, and each monster stands for something in her like relationship with her mother or whatever. And she has to like overcome them all. So it's more emotionally charged because we're getting cards that resonate with her personally. And then once she finally comes through to the end, to the final card, she can then like, that's when she's confronting death itself.
Right.
And she's like, that's when she has the realization of like, death isn't just the end, it can be a new beginning. And then like she defeats the evil. And then, oh my God, we come out the other side. I think that would be a way more interesting movie.
Yeah. I would even go as far as to say that I think that in films about death, when the character's fear is death, which I think in a lot of ways they do almost set up that the character's fear is death. Because she does say when she does her reading and she gets death, she says, I always get death. It's the same time. It's the same every time. And I think the best way to deal with death, like metaphorically, is to like accept it. And I feel like that's maybe the direction that they could go, even as far as now, I'm not going to spoil any other films, but I will say in the past couple of years, there have been a couple films horror films that came out where they were very controversial because they were about Merlin. Stop! I'm gonna start closing this door. Why? I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
Anyway, back to my point. I think that a lot of times in film and television, we are afraid to have a film that ends with the protagonist dying because it implies a very like negative outcome. Like, oh, like her accepting death in the end with her actually literally dying is bad and nobody wants to watch that. But I saw these films that I don't want to say the names of them specifically because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but there was like 1 or 2 horror films where this was the ending and they were really not contradicted. They were really criticized for that. And I thought they were great. Comment below if you know what movies I'm talking about. Spoil it for people in the comments. But I thought it was a really great ending. I think sometimes that being the ending in a horror film, a film about things we're afraid of, is totally fine. But anyway, regardless, she lives and everything's happy ever after. For me, was that the end of your
Yeah, I want her to like confront death, and then like that's what allows her to like overcome her grief of her mother's passing, and she can like fully like move on with her life finally.
Okay, so for me, this is what I would change. I like the structure of it being like a Final Destination type thing, but I think what needs to happen is first and foremost, I want a twist ending. And I think that there's a lot of really fun twists you could do with it, but I'll get to that in a second. Structurally speaking, I do think, yes, there were too many characters. I think you're totally right. They did not need to have like 8 characters who got different tarot readings. I think that a couple major things that could have changed is we could have seen her use the tarot deck throughout the film more versus just in the beginning and then she gives the tarot readings and then their fates are set. I would have liked it more if it was like her, like she gives a couple, like there's a couple tarot readings happening and she gives like a couple, you know, and her friends are dying or whatever. And it would have been nice if she used it to actually foresee how they were going to die. Like use it as a tool to like try to
like she's like, oh shit, something's happening. I need to like do I need guidance. I need to know what's going to happen.
Exactly, and figure out like is there something we can do to help him? And that would, I think that would have played more into the like fate thing as well, where it's like even if she can figure out what's going to happen, does it matter? Can she actually change it? And I think there could have been more interesting questions about that throughout the film. I also think that a reveal regarding her mother's death maybe would have been better towards the end. There needed to be there needed to be some mystery to the film. Like there had to be some nuance or mystery. There was no suspense whatsoever. There was no reason for us to keep watching. We could have watched them read the tarot in the first 10 minutes and then we could have just known how the movie ended. There was no subversion of anything throughout the entire film. So maybe like a fun twist where it's like she's mourning her mother's death, but then it's like we find out in the end this whole thing about like her mom died of some mysterious illness and she couldn't do anything to change it, but it's like it actually turned out that she discovered that she was the reason her mom died or something. Like those kinds of things I think are always a little bit more fun and more horrifying, and the character having to like hope with that of like not just, oh, fate happens and you can't avoid death, but like I actually caused my own mother's death. It's just a better dramatic moment, and her coming to terms with that. How did she cause her mother's death? I don't fucking know, but you know what I mean. It's like I wanted a twist. I just wanted something to happen.
By the books and just like dry, and there was no like the most I guess shocking thing that happened was 2 character fake out deaths, and that was it.
Right,
but like they're for characters we don't care about. And I would prefer to die.
I did not care if any of these people lived or died.
That's one of the worst things about it, is that these characters barely have any personality, and I don't care about any of them. We could barely even figure out who they were and like what their thing is, because the movie spends no time trying to explain any of that. They do not give us any exposition for characters, motivations, locations, nothing. And when we move from one scene to the next, it's often confusing as to where are we? How did we get there? What's your name? Like,
what are the characters' relationships?
It's the type of movie that you play at a party in the background and nobody's watching, at like a Halloween party or like a sleepover.
I can think of a lot of better movies to play at a Halloween party.
There's definitely better ones. I'm just saying, it's like that's the only use case I can think of for this movie.
I truly don't think I would subject anyone to this film.
So I guess, do we want to give films a rating, or if we would recommend them?
It's like I feel bad because I guess I want to say just in general, I think the actors in general did really well with the script they were given. I think the creative team did really well with the design and the production. It looked cool, and the monster design was fun.
Yeah, most of the monster designs were cool, at least.
That's kind of the end of my praise for this movie. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so would you recommend this movie?
Oh, we didn't even mention, I don't know if you knew this. There's a lot of questions about whether or not this film is actually based on a book. So there's a book. Oh fuck! I thought I wrote it down. Okay, yeah. There's a book called Horoscope by. I can't read my own handwriting.
Great.
By Nicholas something. Nicholas, hold on. Hold on.
I did confirm that Lucas did get The Hermit, by the way. I know we were all dying to know that.
Nicholas Adams. There's a book called Horoscope by Nicholas Adams. And some parts of the internet say that this film is based on this book. But then other people who have read this book say that this is a book about a serial killer who's going around and killing people based on their horoscopes, and it's not actually in any way supernatural. So I bring this up.
I
just
don't
because
see it
I
on
feel
the
like
Wikipedia, so I don't think it's real.
Are you sure?
Let
me double check.
Oh wait, yeah, it's based on the 1999. Oh wait, never mind. I missed that.
Horoscope by Nicholas Adams. Right. So this is allegedly based on a book, but everybody who has read this book is like, this has nothing to do with this. The movie has nothing to do with this book. Yeah. So it's really interesting.
They just took the idea of tarot.
Which the book isn't even about tarot. It's about horoscopes. They took the idea.
Oh, it's about horoscopes. Oh. Okay.
Yeah, and the book's also about a serial killer, I think.
Oh.
If we had more than a day.
Called Horoscope.
Oh, sorry. If we had more than a day between the watching of this movie and the filming of this podcast, I would have read this book just out of pure curiosity.
It's got to be better than the movie.
The book actually doesn't have terrible reviews, so I can see why they would want to make the book into a movie. It's just that they changed so much.
Do you think this is one of those cases where it's like they got the rights to the book to make a movie, and it went through so many different like weird rewrites that it came out the other end something completely unrelated? We can't get into Madame Web yet. That needs to be its own episode.
Yeah, we don't have time. We don't have time to talk about Madame Web today.
Time to get into Madame Web.
That's totally fair. I don't know what happened. I just think it's worth mentioning because I would love to know in the comments if you're watching this on something where you can comment. If you have read this book, is there any semblance of like what is the connection? Because I can't find any real connection between this book and this film. And most people who have read the book have been like, is this the same thing? Like, I don't get it. What happened?
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think the budget was?
Oh, it's probably something astronomical. Was it like in the millions?
Yes. Well, that's not really unusual. If it's like
was it in the hundreds of millions?
No.
Okay. Was it like 50 million?
No.
10 million?
No.
Am I getting warmer?
Okay. The budget was $8 million.
I have to say, no, I don't work in the film industry at all, but I did used to work in theater. If you gave me $8 million to make a movie, I think I could do a lot. I could do a lot with $8 million.
Well, how successful do you think this movie was? Like, how much money do you think it grossed?
Probably not much because I didn't hear about it till it was on Netflix.
Do you think they made their money back?
No. At the box
office,
it
actually grossed $49.1 million worldwide.
Are you serious?
So it was a huge success, even though it was horribly panned in reviews.
This is why these horror movies exist.
Like horror movies like this, you can crank out, and it doesn't matter if it's good. People will watch it.
I mean, we watched it.
We watched it. Worked on us.
Well, I guess I'm glad they made their money, but I mean, I don't know. Should I even be glad? I mean,
I'm not glad because I don't want to encourage this kind of.
Yeah, same.
It's so awful. I guess maybe the marketing really worked or something, but it is like a big production company and everything, and distributed by Sony. So
yeah,
but like this is how a lot of those Blumhouse movies work, where they just turn out these awful horror movies, and well, they make bank, even though they're all terrible.
That's so unfortunate. Well, do we have anything else on tarot?
Would you recommend this movie to somebody?
Absolutely not. There are so many other ways you could spend your very limited time on this planet Earth.
I also want to reiterate, we love trashy, awful movies and TV shows. And
huge horror fans.
Yeah, and huge horror fans. My criteria for what makes a good movie for me to like a watchable, fun movie. This is that it needs to be interesting and fun. There's no fun. Yeah. It's very boring. It's very surface level and dry and dull and not exciting, not campy. There's just nothing here.
the tiniest amount of suspense or mystery or intrigue. Like I can get into a film,
nothing.
even if it's just like a mystery, oh, there's this mysterious tarot deck and we need to figure out the origins to save our friends. It's like, no, they just Google it and they just talk to an old woman and she tells them the whole story straight.
Yeah, that's the entire mystery is just it gets solved immediately.
Yeah, and it gets
most
solved,
of the movie
like,
is reserved for just like really boring death scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool monster design though.
Yeah, some cool monsters.
Even that, it's not worth watching the movie for the monster design. Sorry, whoever was on the design team. You did great,
if you really want to see them.
You did what you could.
Yeah. I hope you got paid well.
Probably not. With all the strikes and everything going on, I doubt anyone got paid well. But they sure did make millions of dollars off of this. They sure did make millions
of dollars.
All right, well.
That's that. Good. Anyways, that was Tarot 2024 film, and it was not fun.
It was a movie that I watched through my eyes and listened to with my ears. And now you don't have to.
Yeah, now you really don't have to. If you were curious, you really don't have to. Anyways, once again, we are the Final Bros, and this is our new podcast. You can find our socials below. We also stream on Twitch if you like video games.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Yeah.
You know, subscribe for more lovely
stuff.
reviews.
Yeah, we're here. We're doing stuff. If you want to. If you don't, that's fine. I'm not offended anyway.
We're gonna try to make this a weekly thing. And there will also be a Patreon coming up. So, you know, if you got money.
If you got money.
We got something to spend it on.
So going forward, we will have a Patreon and we will be doing live watchings as well through the Discord attached to our Patreon. So if you are interested in actually watching the films and whatever we're reacting to live with us, that will be an option in the Patreon as we continue to get that set up. So that was Tarot, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Once again, I'm Dorcas Horror.
And I'm Doll Thighs. Again.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye. See you next week. Bye.